So leveraging German for your career obviously implies that, you know, the German language might be maybe of some type of advantage for what you're doing and where your career is heading. And that could imply that you would like to work in Germany, that you would like to work in the US, but maybe you're applying to a German company or a German subsidiary here, or maybe in the US for a company that works in the international market, and in particular, maybe with a market in Germany. So, as I said before, we're a networking organization. We're not in governmental institutions. So to look for numbers, I do have to look for other organization who post those numbers. But for example, if you were thinking of a German company in the US, you know, what is actually the presence of German companies in the United States? So let's take a quick look at that. And there we go. A little bit of delay. German companies are spread throughout the United States, especially the bigger ones. And German subsidiaries count, as far as I know, still for the fourth largest employer within the United States. So a lot of people in the United States who work for a company here work for a German subsidiary, around 700,000 people approximately, all spread out through the United States. Now, some of those locations are obviously based on some of the industries that are there. So if we're looking at the automotive industries, BMW, you know, Daimler, which is, you know, the name behind Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, VW, etc., obviously in those regions, like you know, at least the automotive industry is based. And the biggest names among the German subsidiaries in the US are also some of the, you know, biggest German companies. You know, can certainly have the automotive industry, which is there. There's also Siemens, and there's Bayer, there's Bosch, there's SAP in the technology area. There's some of the sporting goods like Adidas, Puma, etc. So certainly names that you would probably recognize yourself as well. The German subsidiaries are also very much responsible for providing a lot of manufacturing jobs. That's also something that's been certainly in the news in terms of the US, you know, keeping manufacturing jobs here, and they share and go through a variety of different industries, whether that's chemical, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and of course, very much so the automotive industry. The research and development. Now, this is very interesting, especially for us here in the New England region and the Boston region, where we find a lot of the life sciences companies, for example, based in biotech, etc. Spending in terms of research and development by German company is actually the highest spent, you know, within the United States by a foreign country, which definitely leads to some of what we know that there is a lot of academic and educational prowess here in the United States. So for Germany to invest here and to see that research and development is done in the United States is very important. Some of the companies that are actually here in our New England areas, I'm just going to share some of those names with you. You'll probably recognize them, again, very much through different type of industries, whether that's tech as SAP, you know, some of the appliances like Bosch, medical device, which is Dräger and Karl Storz. And then one of the biggest ones here is Merck, which is the MilliporeSigma, is the German Merck behind that, and Siemens. Now, you may also think if German is important and I would like to go, for example, to Germany, and I see that there is a Y missing. What's the presence of US companies in Germany? So if I was going to be sent over there, or if I was going to apply to a job that happens to be an American subsidiary within Germany. These are actually just numbers that were published by the AmCham of Germany, actually just very recently, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Oh yeah, October 12th. And some of them are, of course, jobs that maybe related to, the restaurant industry, but some of them are serious jobs as well as in the automotive industry. We see here Amazon, Ford, ExxonMobil, Tankstellen, of course, those are gas stations. Philip Morris, Microsoft is a huge employer within Germany. Google, a lot of the tech companies are represented throughout Germany. So those are some of those biggest names that you may be familiar with. And here's also a very interesting look at a fact sheet that AmCham just published. And this is, if you're looking at here for that, I would actually be very good if you know a little bit of German, since that was published in German. So if you're looking at, basically the sales of US companies in Germany versus the sales of German companies in the US, you see that there is a large difference in numbers. So the presence of German companies in the US is extremely important. It's one of the most important markets for German companies. And a lot of the companies that have a subsidiary here in the United States actually also generates a majority of their overall sales. So it is a very, very, very big and important market, and therefore also the presence of the German companies here. Now, last week, we did a very small flash poll among our members and some on LinkedIn that I share my connections with. And we asked the questions and said, do you rate German skills useful for your business or someone you want to hire? Now, the response that came back was, overwhelmingly yes, that is very important. We definitely see that as something that we would like to see in someone, on their resume, or someone that we know is working for us, where it's useful to have that German language skill. And we also have a couple of quotes that people shared with us in terms of why that would be. For example, having strong German language skills is definitely a plus when interacting with German customers or German colleagues. I have found that having an understanding of German culture is also very helpful. Or for the communication with operations in Germany, it's an icebreaker with customers. German skills as well as other languages are certainly a plus. And we hear that quite a bit, with our member companies here that are part of the GABC network, especially those Americans that work for a German subsidiary, where they feel if they don't have the German language skills, and even if it's not, let's say, like a full, I'm fluent, I can speak like a German, but even to be able to, read some of the corporate communication, to even show, as this person said, this could be an icebreaker with somebody that I have to communicate with in Germany, to show some helpful understanding of some corporate culture. And with that, I will also go to a Handelsblatt is one of the major German trade newspapers. Probably, you could compare that to the Wall Street Journal. And there's been a series over the last couple of months by John Otto McGee, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, about the differences in the German way of working in a, I'm just gonna move that on my screen, in terms of working for a German company or working for an American company. And I'm going to just read some of the different titles that he has published on. So German directness, American euphemism, the hell of cross-cultural communication, where Germans sympathize, Americans break down, German contentiousness versus American small talk, Germans consult, Americans serve. The German soccer teacher versus the American football coach. That was actually a very good one. I enjoyed that one. I think you can look up all of these articles online, and you do not have to have a Handelsblatt subscription in order to read them. And they're in English because they're on the international part of the Handelsblatt. German processes versus American relationships. Germans deal with their own conflicts, Americans escalate them to the boss, and then Americans overpraise and Germans underpraise. Now, in all these titles are obviously some of the, stereotypes, but some also of things of where things in the German corporate world may actually be different than in the American corporate world. And to have an understanding of the language is also a lot of times to have an understanding a little bit of the culture. And that makes it much, much easier to work within that corporate world, whether that is within Germany or that is within a subsidiary here in the United States. Now, I've definitely heard from the employers here in the area in terms of your resumes and what can stand out and what does make you stand out when you apply. The knowledge of the German language will not make up for a lack of some other professional experience that you may need for that particular job. But it can certainly be a little bit of a deal breaker and set you apart from other applicants if you have that particular experience. And if you want to particularly look for German companies and have that little bit of an edge, I can only underscore what Joanne previously presented in her presentation in terms of going out to network and to find a way to connect with, maybe Germans or German companies already while you are looking for a job, or if you have that opportunity, is absolutely very, very helpful.